What's up, Comic Book Nation? BD here with Lucas Siegel. We have some big, enormous, interdimensional news from the Marvel Cinematic Universe for you today. Lucas here went to the set of Doctor Strange in London last winter, all the way out there across the pond, and today we are finally allowed to share all the goodies he came back with. Now, you might consider that like mild spoilers. So I don't know. If you're touchy, be careful, beware, you've been warned.
Very mild.
But if you want to read all about this, Comicbook.com has officially been completely taken over by Doctor Strange. I mean, we have lots and lots of articles analyzing all this information. You will see even more information from the set dropping tomorrow. So for the next 2 days, it's going to be very strange as well. But for Lucas right now, let's talk Strange.
How many times are we going to say Strange today? During the set visit, we learned a lot about Doctor Strange, from the ins and outs of the characters, story beats, the way that the movie fits into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But the biggest focus was absolutely on the tone of the movie and the way that it is introducing magic to the MCU in a meaningful way.
Okay. So we're definitely going to talk about that magic.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that magic, but I want to start out at the beginning. At the beginning of the movie.
Let's do a reveal right away. In case you haven't seen this yet, it was just released. We have a brand new Doctor Strange poster. Let's show this thing off. It is Benedict Cumberbatch there in his full Doctor Strange regalia.
Full Inception mode.
He looks awesome. The buildings are folding around him. We've got a couple more character posters we'll be showing you throughout, as well as some brand new stills throughout this segment that we'll be tossing your way. So be excited. That poster is badass, and it's the start of their new character posters line.
All right, speaking of starts,
yes.
I want to talk about the beginning of this movie.
Okay.
I want to talk about how this is an origin story. It's a lot like, to me, it seems like it's a lot like Iron Man, like some of the earliest origin stories we saw in the MCU, but with magic, right?
Yeah.
How much similarity between this movie, between movies like Iron Man, all the way from 8 years ago in 2008, how much of a similarity are we going to see between Doctor Strange and all those heroes that we've already seen have their origin stories told?
You're going to see some very big similarities between Iron Man and Doctor Strange specifically. One, they both have mean goatees, so that's huge.
A lot of money.
The big thing here is both of them went through reinventions. So Doctor Strange is all about reinventing himself and finding a new way to look at the universe around him. So he starts out as a man of science. There's a car crash, his hands are mangled, and he goes around looking for a way to heal himself. And magic winds up being that way, but not until he's gone through some trials and tribulations of his own.
Dude, these rich guys just have it so bad when something bad happens. Turn into superheroes. But unlike Iron Man, like Tony Stark, this movie does deal with magic, like you mentioned.
Right.
How would you say the rules of magic in Doctor Strange apply to the MCU, as opposed to like the magic we've seen with Scarlet Witch? We've seen magic in the Thor movies a bit, but this is different. This is definitely different.
It's very different. The big thing with Scarlet Witch is she has no idea if what she's using is magic, if what she's doing is tapping into some force that surrounds her or is from another dimension. These magic users, Marvel has always called this the mystic arts, and Doctor Strange is the master of the mystic arts. They're taking that a step further in Doctor Strange the movie, and they're making the mystic arts much more like an offshoot of the martial arts. So you're going to see training sequences, you're going to see a huge group of characters, novices and masters. You're going to see all these people using magic together, and you're also going to see it in a very controlled manner. So rather than the chaos magic...
the world's upside down, very controlled.
But they're controlling it. They're totally in control every
casual,
moment.
Totally casual.
So Scarlet Witch, they've always called her magic chaos magic in the pages of Marvel Comics. This is controlled
look at Civil
magic.
War. Look at what she did in the beginning of Civil War, for example. And now you have Doctor Strange who's really trying to hone in on it to become the Sorcerer Supreme, right?
Exactly. And we'll see the way that magic is used here is going to be completely different from anything you've ever seen on screen, period. Completely different. They've promised that, and Scott Derrickson, the director, Kevin Feige, the Marvel president, said that over and over and over again.
Sweet. So now we've talked about the magic, we've talked about the hero. If you know Doctor Strange, you basically know what you're going to get almost. But you don't have a super strong superhero movie without a super strong superhero villain or a super villain. Now, the villain here is going to be Caecilius, Mads Mikkelsen.
Yep.
What do you know about him? What can you say? Spoil it all. Tell us everything.
Okay, so at the end of the so Caecilius is a former master from Camartage, which is the hidden city that they're training in. Now, Marvel fans, if you hear hidden city, hidden mystical city, that might be setting off an alarm. So that might be another little MCU connection that we're gonna get with the an upcoming Netflix series, for example. But I digress. So he was a master there at Camartage, and he leaves because, as Kevin Feige told us, basically he disagrees with the way that the Ancient One is teaching them magic. He thinks that she's holding back, she's not giving them all of the answers that they want, she's not teaching them how to fully tap into these other dimensions and pull more power out of them. And he thinks that she's doing that because she's selfish. Now, she's
Rule number
probably,
one in superhero training: never get greedy.
Right, right.
Come on,
exactly.
When you get greedy, come on.
She's probably doing it more to, protect the universe from all the extra dimensional energies that they're playing with, but we'll let him have his fun. So he pulls away a whole group of trainees from Camartage. His zealots are what they're called in the movie, and they go out to try to find new ways to tap into this magic. And we will have more on that tomorrow, but I can't reveal how today. I'm sorry. But I can tell you one more thing.
One thing we can reveal. Okay, what do you got?
One more thing about Caecilius. Now, a lot of people hear Doctor Strange, and they think about this dude.
Oh, we're gonna get to that.
And Kevin Feige and Scott Derrickson both tease that there might be a connection there. So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. I'm thinking post-credits. But anyway, one thing we can reveal right now is Rachel McAdams' character. No, it's not a continuation of Wedding Crashers, unfortunately. But what is she doing in this movie?
Yes, so Christine Palmer.
Is she still married to Vince Vaughn?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no,
definitely still
Wilson.
married.
I got that backwards.
She's married to both of them and dating Doctor Strange.
Well, how about that? Perfect.
Now, she is a nurse named Christine Palmer who knows Stephen Strange before his accident, when he is on top of the world. He is the cocky, extremely well-paid, extremely good-looking man about town in Manhattan.
And then he gets in an accident.
She does not leave him.
Ooh.
So, as we
Loyal.
saw in some of the new images today,
Major key.
Christine does stick around in Strange's life, including once he's already really started to learn magic. So, interestingly, her scenes were all shot by the end of February, and the movie didn't wrap for a couple months after that. So, what that says about her role, we don't really know yet. A lot of people were hoping or expecting her to be Clea. She's not Clea, but the nature of Clea being from the dark dimension, the possessions, things like that, there's always a possibility later.
I got to throw in a fan question right now. We'll get to your questions in a minute. We'll take a bunch of them, but right now I'm seeing one. Do you have any idea in the timeline of the MCU where this fits?
We don't know exactly yet, but from what I've heard, all of this phase of movies are all kind of taking place in and about the same time.
Okay.
So Doctor Strange is absolutely before Infinity War. It's
it does
absolutely
seem like
post
Phase
Avengers.
3 is kind of all
Age of
overlapping.
Ultron. Yeah.
What's going on in all these movies is just kind of one and at the same time, and then we just get a look at another part of the MCU.
Yeah.
Like while Civil War was going on, and Spider-Man: Homecoming is going to have parts of Civil War, and
Exactly.
we're going to learn that it was happening while Civil War was going on, maybe a little bit after as well.
What's funny, a lot of people don't remember, but Phase 1 all took place in a week. There was actually a comic tie-in called Coulson's Longest Week, and it was just him jumping from each of the Phase 1 movies. So, we'll see.
All right. Now, another thing I want to talk about, one thing I might be most excited to hear about from this film, Infinity Stones are going to be in the movie, right?
There is an Infinity Stone in Doctor Strange. And if you've been watching the trailers and combing over the trailers, you've already seen it. So how about that? We'll be able to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. But yes, we can say that. And one thing that Kevin Feige did caution is that you're not going to necessarily see that be a major focus. It's not that like this is prelude to Infinity War, but there's a
They're
stone
all
there.
preludes to Infinity
There's
War.
a stone.
Every
They're
movie
all
in the
preludes.
MCU is a prelude to Infinity War. Doctor Strange, by the way, confirmed yesterday to be in Infinity War.
Yep.
Speaking of that, yeah, he's confirmed for Infinity War, rumored for Thor Ragnarok, so Infinity War could be his third appearance in the MCU.
Right.
But what do you think his interactions, like speaking of all this, what do you think his interactions with other characters in the MCU are going to be like? Like, you get Stephen Strange in a room with Tony Stark, with Thor, with Bruce Banner. I mean, what do you think? Like, you've seen Cumberbatch in the role.
Yeah.
What's that going to be like?
Well, one thing that's going to be really interesting is that Strange comes from a very unique point because he studied science. He is a man of science. And then he studied all of this magic. So when he gets in a room with Tony Stark and with Bruce Banner, he can sit down and he can talk science with them. And he can be very intelligent. And then when they get stumped, he'll go, oh, I can just pull that out of this other dimension and we'll be fine. And they'll look at him like he's crazy. I think Thor and Doctor Strange are going to get along really well because Thor does have an understanding of magic already. His brother obviously has dabbled with magic a bit. And his mother is or was.
You think Strange is worthy?
A powerful sorceress.
R.I.P.
Sorry.
R.I.P.
Sorry.
Spoiler alert.
So yeah, I think the two of them are going to get along really well. And other than that, I feel like Doctor Strange might get along surprisingly well with the Vision. Because neither of them seem to really have too much of a grasp of how to exist in the world around them. Everything we saw on the set about Strange is
and
that
they both
he's
have an
so...
Infinity Stone.
Hey.
Just saying.
I don't know what you're talking.
They have that in common.
Strange is so self-centered and so just all about him for the grand majority of this movie. It looks like that I feel like his contrast with the Vision, who's trying desperately to be more human, could be really fun.
Now, finally, before we get to it, we're going to do a couple questions. We have time for just a couple questions from the comment section. Before that, Dormammu. He's at least been brought back in your Easter basket.
Yes.
What do you have on Dormammu? Everybody wants to know. It's the question we get on Twitter. It's the question we get in the comment section. What do you got?
Okay, so there's two major Easter eggs that you can read about tomorrow on Comicbook.com that are all about Dormammu. So there is stuff about Dormammu there. The Dread Dormammu. What I can tell you is this. Kevin and Scott Derrickson both talked a lot about the looming presence of Dormammu. So Kevin Feige, when he was talking about the parallel dimensions, specifically said, there's the dark dimension that Dormammu rules over. He said that exact quote, those exact words.
Sounds like Dormammu exists.
So Dormammu absolutely exists in this world, no question. The other part is Scott Derrickson talked about Caecilius and how he developed the character. We have his full quotes online now, but the basic gist was this. He compared it a lot to Saruman and Sauron in Lord of the Rings. And he said that there is this looming presence behind Caecilius that might be actually driving his plot forward. So when Sauron was driving Saruman's plot forward, he was this kind of mystical being in the background. Who's a mystical being that could be in the background
of our shot,
of Doctor Strange,
of our current shot,
and of our current shot?
All right, let's get to a few questions from the comment section.
Let's do
it. Somebody said, "Did you see Cumberbatch on set?" No, I'm not allowed to say any of that. That's when Marvel kills me. Will Doctor Strange...
I saw Cumberbatch on set plenty in London. I'm going to rock this is the Doctor Strange crew hat that Marvel was so kind enough to pass along.
I'm going to steal that from you. Will Doctor Strange have knowledge of the MCU universe that already exists around him?
Yes. They definitely exist in the MCU very specifically, and Stephen Strange has been living in Manhattan for the last few years, so you can bet he's seen things go down in Manhattan, and I believe that will be referenced.
Probably best friends with Spider-Man. Anyway, no, he's from Brooklyn, Bronx. Red Skull,
Queens,
is he coming
actually.
back? That's not for this movie.
Wow.
Queens, sorry. Look, I'm in Strange mode. Leave me alone. All right, the Infinity Stones, I'm still hyped on that. Any predictions or news about a post/end credits scene? We haven't even watched the movie yet, Wim. What do you mean? But anyway,
there will definitely be at least one scene mid to end credits with rumored ties to Thor Ragnarok and rumored ties to Infinity War. We're definitely going to see some of that. And I mean, again, this lurking presence of the Dread Dormammu would make a really great post-credit scene too, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it make a great?
It's not gonna not.
It'd be so much
All right,
fun.
our last question from Lowell Tannen. Will Mordo flip on Doctor Strange in this film? This is something I've actually talked to the cast about, and did they say anything about that on set?
What they said is that Mordo at this point is a master, and he is on the side of good. He's really the chief lieutenant of the Ancient One at this point. Now, when Stephen Strange winds up the one with the Cloak of Levitation and the Eye of Agamotto and a little shiny thing inside it, and
You're not fooling anybody, Lucas.
and if Stephen Strange is to become the Sorcerer Supreme, I could certainly see that being a source of jealousy for one Baron Mordo. But
Jealousy and greed.
in this film, we will see Mordo as a hero, and we will see him interacting with the other masters.
Right.
So that's how we'll see him here. But
I think eventually in the sequel, as Scott Derrickson put it to me at Comic-Con, we will see that de-evolution of their relationship.
it's just not something he wanted to do first, because he wanted to show that this magical world already exists, and Strange is just inserting himself into it.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for being a part of our coverage today. If you have questions for us, leave them below in the comment section. We will scroll through. Hit up Lucas on Twitter for all your Doctor Strange news, in-depth coverage of the film, and way, way more. Follow Comicbook.com across all of social media at Comicbook on Twitter, at ComicBookNow on Instagram. BD, on behalf of Lucas Siegel, we will see you all in another dimension.